Once upon a time, I had an apartment in Seattle on the edge of downtown. It was pretty sketchy. And I had this roommate that was referred to by a friend who had come from out of town. He was a musician. I forget his name, and that's probably a good thing. But I just remember him being really reclusive in this room. There were 2 rooms in this place. And I remember he was late on rent. And so I kept asking about rent, as you would in order to pay rent. He would never respond. And one night, I knew he was in his room. I could hear him moving around, and he had replaced his lights with red light bulbs. So there's this red glow coming from underneath the door. And he was kind of like this, I don't know, kind of a bigger guy, medium sized, but kind of a buff kind of dude, Danzig looking kind of a cat. And I heard him shuffling around there, and I was knocking on the door really lightly. And I was like, hey man, hey, and he still wasn't responding. And I looked down at the bottom of the door, there was a line of salt. I remember he said that he'd put that there to protect himself against the landlord. And so I knocked on the door. I thought, well, that's for the landlord, so it should be okay for me. I kept knocking, and there was no response. I was like, hey man, I really need to pay rent. Do you have the rent money? Hey man, yo, knock, 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 knock. Finally, I hear heavy footsteps coming up to the door. Door swings open, and he's just in these like little tidy whities. Totally nothing else, just the tidy whities. And he looks at me with this kind of demonic look on his face, and he has this money in his hands, and he goes, here. And he just dumps this crumpled up pile of bills onto the floor, and then slams the door closed. And I was like, thanks man, thank you.